What would you do if you were standing on the edge of death? If you were about to leave your body behind, what would you see? What would you experience? These are the questions that haunt our minds when we think about the afterlife, a realm beyond our physical existence. But what if those questions weren't just theoretical? What if people have actually ventured into the unknown, crossed the threshold of death, and returned to tell the tale? In today's video, we'll explore the chilling and transformative stories of those who claim to have survived the experience of hell itself. These are not just ordinary near-death experiences. They are vivid, haunting encounters with what many believe is the realm of torment. Stories so powerful, they'll challenge everything you think you know about life, death, and the journey that lies beyond. Get ready to hear first-hand accounts of what happens when the impossible becomes real. These stories will not only stir your curiosity, but they'll make you question your own beliefs about death, suffering, and what awaits us after we take our final breath. Near-death experiences, NDEs, have fascinated humanity for centuries, yet the stories that come from these encounters continue to defy explanation. Among the many NDEs reported, some describe not just a peaceful journey toward light, but terrifying visions of hell. These accounts are not limited to religious interpretations. They come from people of all walks of life, sharing strikingly similar details of suffering, despair, and encounters with shadowy figures or overwhelming darkness. But what does this mean? Are these experiences mere hallucinations, a byproduct of the brain shutting down? Or are they glimpses into a reality beyond our understanding? In today's video, we'll share 3 powerful stories from those who claim to have journeyed through hell itself, each offering a unique perspective on what lies beyond death. Our goal is not only to recount these stories, but to explore what they reveal about our beliefs on life, death, and the human soul. Do these accounts hold a deeper message for us? Can they change the way we view our own lives and the inevitable fate that awaits us all? Stay with us as we take you through the extraordinary experiences of those who have been to hell and lived to tell the tale. Meet Sarah, a woman who, by all accounts, should never have survived the accident that nearly ended her life. Her story begins with a sudden, life-threatening event, a crash that left her unconscious and on the brink of death. What happened next, however, is something she can't easily forget, even to this day. Sarah describes being pulled into a realm unlike anything she had ever imagined. It wasn't just darkness, it was a deep, suffocating void. She could feel the weight of the air pressing down on her, thick with anguish. The temperature was unbearable, and there was an eerie silence that seemed to close in around her. And then she saw them, shadowy, indistinct figures moving in the distance just out of reach. They weren't human, but they seemed to be watching her, observing her suffering. The experience felt eternal, as though she had been trapped there for what seemed like forever. Every part of her being screamed for escape, but the more she struggled, the more the darkness seemed to pull her in. She was utterly powerless, consumed by a sense of hopelessness and dread. It was only when she reached the breaking point, when she thought she couldn't endure another second, that something began to shift. Out of nowhere, a sudden rush of light pierced through the darkness, and Sarah was pulled out of the void. She woke up in a hospital room, surrounded by doctors and nurses who couldn't explain how she survived. But for Sarah, the real question was what she had seen and what it meant. The torment she had experienced had left a lasting imprint on her psyche, forever altering her perception of life, death, and the spiritual realm. Sarah's encounter with the dark hell didn't just change her outlook on life. It left her with a sense of profound purpose, a deep belief that the experience was a warning, a lesson. But what lesson, and how did it shape the way she lived her life from that point onward? Now, let's turn to Mark's story, a man who had always lived a skeptical life, focused on logic and science, with little belief in the supernatural. That was until he found himself in a life-or-death situation after a sudden heart attack. For Mark, this experience would be nothing short of life-altering, as he ventured into a realm he never thought existed. In his near-death experience, Mark found himself in a place that could only be described as hell, not in the fiery, conventional sense, but in a realm of endless torment. The air was heavy, suffocating, and filled with an overwhelming sense of despair. He felt trapped, lost in a maze of darkness, unable to find any escape. Yet there was something different about his experience compared to others. Unlike Sarah's encounter with pure suffering, Mark began to feel a sense of quiet shift. It was subtle at first, a gentle pull, a whisper of something greater, something beyond the oppressive darkness. As time seemed to slow and his surroundings became more intense, Mark found himself face to face with a force, not a figure, but a presence. It wasn't threatening, it was deeply powerful, filled with both compassion and a sense of knowledge that transcended human understanding. The presence communicated with him, not through words, but through emotions and visions. Visions of his life, his choices, and the greater purpose that had always eluded him. It was in that moment that Mark understood. The hell he was experiencing wasn't just punishment, it was a lesson. This revelation was his turning point. Mark realized that his time in the dark realm had been a spiritual journey, a challenge to face his own life choices, his unresolved fears, and the meaning of his existence. Upon returning to the physical world, Mark felt reborn. His outlook on life was no longer focused solely on the material. He felt a deep connection to the spiritual, a newfound understanding that death wasn't the end, but a continuation of a deeper, eternal journey. Mark's story isn't just about surviving a near-death experience. It's about transformation, about finding meaning where there once was none, and discovering a new path towards spiritual enlightenment. Our final story is from Jake, a man who lived with a deep fear of death for most of his life. His fear was not the fear of what might come after, but of the process itself, the unknown, the finality of it all. This deep-seated fear controlled many aspects of his life until, one fateful night, it led him straight into an experience that would forever change his understanding of death. Jake's encounter with the Inferno was brutal and unrelenting. He found himself in a place of intense suffering, unlike anything he could have imagined. The air was thick with heat, and the sounds of anguished cries filled the air. The suffering seemed endless, and Jake felt the raw, unyielding terror of facing something far worse than physical pain, the feeling of utter powerlessness, of being beyond help. The fear was all-encompassing, but as the moments dragged on, something began to shift within him. At first, Jake was consumed with the thought that this was it. This was the end, and he would never escape. But then, as he stared into the abyss, a realization struck him. The true pain wasn't in the suffering of the place, but in the resistance to it. His mind had been fighting, clawing against the inevitability of death, unable to accept the truth that was unfolding before him. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Jake stopped fighting. And in that moment of acceptance, the atmosphere changed. The heat that had been suffocating became bearable. The cries softened, and the pain seemed to dissipate. It wasn't that the hell had ceased to exist, but that Jake's perception of it had altered. He had let go of his fear, and in doing so, had found a form of peace within the chaos. His fear of death, the thing that had held him back his entire life, had been shattered.
When Jake returned to the physical world, he was a different person. He no longer feared death, but rather saw it as a natural part of the human experience. The time he spent in that hellish realm had taught him that death was not the enemy, fear was. And with this newfound wisdom, Jake embraced life with a renewed sense of purpose, no longer running from death, but living fully in each moment. As we reflect on the three profound stories we've just explored, it's impossible to ignore the powerful lessons they impart. Each of these individuals faced the unimaginable, a journey into the depths of what many perceive as the ultimate terror, the Inferno. Yet, through their experiences, we see a common thread emerge: transformation. Sarah's story showed us how deep suffering can lead to profound change. For her, the hell she encountered wasn't just a place of torment, but a catalyst for re-evaluating her life, leading to a renewed appreciation for every moment she had been given. The intense pain of her experience transformed her, driving her to embrace love and forgiveness in a way that seemed impossible before. Mark, on the other hand, brought us a different perspective. His experience wasn't just about escaping hell, but finding the hidden lesson within it. His encounter with a higher presence awakened a sense of spiritual purpose in him. It was not the hell itself that was transformative, but the understanding that we are all connected to something far greater than ourselves. Finally, Jake's journey spoke directly to our deepest fear, the fear of death. Through his time in the Inferno, he learned that it wasn't the act of dying that was terrifying, but our resistance to it. By accepting death, he found peace and freedom, shedding the chains of fear that had ruled his life. These stories collectively remind us that our greatest challenges, whether they are physical, emotional, or spiritual, often contain the seeds of transformation. We don't need to seek out suffering to change, but by embracing the hardships that life presents, we open ourselves to growth, enlightenment, and a deeper understanding of what it means to truly live. As we wrap up these incredible accounts, we are left with a profound question. What can we truly learn from such intense, otherworldly experiences? The 3 stories we've explored today aren't just tales of survival, they are lessons about the very core of human existence. From Sarah, we learned that even in the darkest moments, there is potential for transformation. Her suffering in the inferno led to a deep emotional and spiritual rebirth, reminding us that hardship can be a powerful force for change if we choose to learn from it. Mark's journey teaches us about the power of perspective. His experience showed that the struggles we face might not be as much about pain, but about understanding the deeper meaning behind them. Finally, Jake's story offers us a powerful lesson in acceptance. He showed us that our fear of death and of the unknown can be far more devastating than death itself. By embracing this fear, we can free ourselves from its grip and live more fully. These stories challenge us to reconsider our beliefs about life and death. They urge us to see beyond our fears and limitations, and to explore the transformative power of embracing the unknown. In the end, it's not about what happens after death, but about how we live and what we choose to learn along the way. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unknown, as we explored the powerful and transformative experiences of those who have encountered what some believe to be the inferno. We hope these stories have sparked new reflections on life, death, and the human spirit. If you found these insights meaningful, please share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking videos like this. Continue exploring the depths of existence with us, and remember, the journey to understanding never truly ends.